This is not a guitar tutorial, and that's probably a good thing for you if you were expecting to learn something today, because I can't do much more than the basic chord progression, and I'm also not very good at it, but it's all about technique, right? Now this is about programming, another thing I like to do, which I'm also not particularly good at, but I enjoy it because I always create little miniature apps that I like playing around with, such as today. I've been tinkering around with something called Qt framework, which is a nice UI framework that is bindings to Python. So in this tutorial, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating a chat application that not only chats with yourself, but also adds a friend, in this case an AI friend that uses Ollama, which is an LLM that runs on your local machine. So no requirements to bind out to anything like ChatGPT or any other AI services. You can just run it all in your local machine, and your performance will certainly vary depending on your GPU. But it is a fun little project to get started in both UI development and working with Llama. So let's check it out. Like any good UI program, it's always probably good to start with a vision of what you want it to look like. And while I always have a good idea in my head what I want things to look like, since I'm making a tutorial, I need to learn how to actually make it so that people I'm showing this to understand what I'm going for. And so using Draw.io, which is a wonderful program, you could be able to create little mock-ups of UIs, and I created a simple mock-up. And this is what we're going to be utilizing, which is a simple application that will have a text input, a button to send, and then also a chat window here to actually see the chats as they come in, as we communicate with the application. So we're going to be creating this today. It should only take us about 15-20 minutes at most, so let's go ahead and get started. What I usually like to do is I like to start off with making our chatbot. Just create a simple chat directory, and then open that in Visual Studio Code. By checking that out, I have some of my own configuration, so you're welcome to do whatever it is you wish to. If you want to use a different text editor, that's fine. I like Visual Studio Code because of all the different niceties that come with it. So I'm going to start with, first of all, a requirements.txt file, which kind of brings in all our sources. So we're going to be bringing in Ollama and PyQt6. So those are our main two applications, at least I believe so. Yeah, that's it. So PyQt6, and then just another program called chatbot.py. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do Command-Shift-P. I'm going to select our Python interpreter, utilize 3.12.3, which is the latest, and then also, forgot about this, Python, create a virtual environment is what I wanted to do. So we're going to create a virtual environment. We're going to use 3.12.3, and we're going to use our requirements text file. And this is nice because, again, it allows you to be able to just source the requirements text file. And as you add it, you can just create the requirements.txt file over and over again. So let's get started with what we want here. So from importing, so we want to start with importing the GUI application itself. So from PyQt6.qtWidgets, we want to import. I'm going to have this in parentheses here because I want to actually see what we have as we're importing it. So the first thing we're going to do is import QApplication. And what QApplication is it's a class that manages the GUI's application and settings. So well documented, so very nice to be able to find information on it on PyQt's website. As a matter of fact, one of the things you could do is definitely search for it, QApplication. You can be able to find things. So a lot of the different methods that you have available for it are all right here. They will be methods that you can be able to activate as needed, and some of the things that work for Python will also work for other class bindings as well, or language bindings as well. So it's very nice to work with. So from QApplication, we also want to bring in QMainWindow, which is a class that provides the main application to function. Okay. And then another thing I just want to go ahead and do is import sys, because we will need that as well. System is a built-in library. So class main window, I want to make that a superclass of QMain window. And then QMain window, we're going to go ahead and do its init class here with self, and then make this super main window dot, or I'm sorry, comma self dot init. Pretty basic, right? That's it, actually. To create an actual class definition for getting started with Qt6. That you just need to create a QMain window and then reference that class. So that's what we're going to do next. We're going to do app equals Q application with sys.argv. That's why we imported sys, and then window equals main window, so we want to invoke that class to have it as part of an object. And then we want to do window.show and then app.exec. And then if I were to run this right here, start debugging, Python file, and you'll see our application is already started here. It's very generic right now, not much here to speak about, so it's very not too useful, right? But that's the point of this application, is we're going to add to it, of course. Okay, so let's go ahead and start adding some more things to it real quick. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to so we want to have this init definition, I should say, go ahead and do some things for us. So one of the first things I want to do is self set window title. Bring it down all the way here. We want to go ahead and have that, just call it chatbot. We'll just give it something simple, right? So simple chatbot application, and by setting that now, if I go ahead and run this, I should see that the title of the application has changed here. So yay, we made our first change. So we need to also start considering how do we add things in, and the way we get things added is through widgets. So there is a main widget that gets added. It's going to be called our Q widget. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and import that, and then we also want to go ahead and import another thing that consumes that widget, which is called Q grid layout. So layouts are the way things get, your widgets get how do I put it, displayed on the screen. And with a grid layout, it's almost exactly what you would think. I mean, if you look at your keyboard, everything's kind of laid out in a grid. You have rows and columns, think like that. So that's how layouts get set up. So we do Q grid layout, and then what we're going to do next is we're going to invoke that Q widget by creating what's called a self.central widget equals Q widget. Self.central widget set layout. We're going to reference our layout we created here. And self.central widget, self.central widget. Okay. And that's basically, or I'm sorry, we do set central widget. Self is a class here. We couldn't reference our central widget as ourself, but self.set central widget to the central widget. So we're setting the central widget as the central widget. Hope that's not confusing, but that's what we're doing here. Okay, and by doing that, what it's going to allow us to do is it's going to be able to allow us to take the next objects we're going to be doing, which includes the QText edit. So I'm going to do that, QText edit. And what QText edit is, it's a class that allows you to be able to have plain and rich text enabled. So it's very useful for like long form text. And in this case, we're going to be using it for chat. So we're going to do self.textbox, or sorry, self.chatWindow equals QTextEdit, and then self.chatWindow set placeholder text. We're going to say chat with chatbot. You know, just something simple to put in there. And then we're going to do layout.add widget self.chatWindow, comma 0, 0, 1, 2. So what we're saying here is we're saying that we want to set this in row 0, column 0, but it's going to span across 2 rows here, okay? So that's how this is going to work. It's going to span across the 2 rows there. So if we, or the 2 columns, I should say. So if we set this now, we should see a very simple hello. We can even chat in here, or we can even type in here, which is great. So we have what we need. We have our chat window set up. Next we want to do, we want to go ahead and set the text box up. So we're going to say self.textbox equals qline edit. And then self.textbox.set placeholder holder text equals type your message here. Right. And then we want to do layout.add widget self.textbox. And then we're going to say on row 1, which is the second row, column 0, which is the first column. Okay. So we got our text box set up. Next thing we want to do is I want to get the send buttons created. Send button. So we're going to add in a. I didn't import that. So I didn't talk about qline edit. So the difference between qline edit and text edit is that qline edit is a one-line application. As a matter of fact, let's go ahead and comment that out real quick and show you. You can see the difference here between a text edit, which is you can be able to resize it as needed, but a qline edit will always be a single row. It will never expand beyond it. So it's really great for input for like, as an example, like what's your name, what's your message, you know, things like that. Okay. So now let's create this send button. So the send button is going to be what's called a Q push button. And then we're going to put send in here. So we got to import that Q push button. Or say self dot. Actually, that's it. That's all we need for now. So then we do layout dot add widget. Self dot text box, comma 1, comma 1. So now, if I look at this, hang on. Oh, I added it twice. I made a mistake here. I see it. Send button. Now I've got my chat application. So I don't know if it's a striking image to what we created earlier, but it's not that bad. Very similar, right? So almost exactly. Right? Although this is meant for Mac, but anyway, it's almost perfect. Exactly what we needed, which is putting our message here, send, although the text is a little different, and we'll get into that in a minute, okay? So great, our app is set up, but while our UI is set up, what we don't have is interactivity, and that's what we want to do. So we actually want to do that by using what are called connections. So the way Qt works is that, and a lot of these GUI applications work this way, where they have an event loop. The event loop is constantly processing events as they occur, and they're happening all the time. And so when an event happens that matches the event you're expecting to see, that's when action happens. And so when a connection happens to a particular, like you press a button, that event will then get processed. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to go ahead and do, when send button is clicked dot connect, we're going to connect it to a function within this class called handler send button. Just something simpler. Okay, and what we'll do is we'll just say def handler send button. We'll reference self. We'll say print pushed the button. Let's see if that worked. So if I push the button, I should see right here in the console, push the button. So we created our first interactivity, which is great, but this is a chat application. So we're needing to actually take the content of what I put in here, even if I put anything in here, just sending it here, and that's not particularly useful. We don't need to send button. We need to send the contents of this to the chat window so we can view it. So let's do that. Okay, so let's go ahead and delete that. And then now what we want to do, we want to say where my message, actually we're going to keep this consistent, my message equals text self.textbox.text. Okay, then what we want to do is we want to make sure we add this to our chat window. So we want to say self.chatWindow.append. We're going to say you, because you're the person typing it, plus my message. Let's see what happens. Hello there. Send. Great, it's there. But every time I want to send a message now, I've got it just here. So I got it goodbye. And it's not very useful to constantly change that all the time because it's just going to be here and you might send duplicate messages. So one of the best ways of doing this is just to, after you send it, you can just do my self.textbox.clear. Clear is a great method to use to just clear the current window, and so you can be able to say hello, and now it's gone. So you can just type your next message, which is perfect. So we've got some interactivity, but what we don't have is we don't have the ability to communicate with anybody. So it's just a very lonely place. So what I want to look at is something called Ollama. So let's just go to our and I'll put definitely links in the description, but Ollama Python is a Python library for interacting with Ollama. And if you don't know much about Ollama, it is a great way to run LLMs and lots of different models, by the way. So it's not just Llama 3, but there's lots of different models you can run around with. We're just going to use Llama 3 for this example. Installing it's easy, so you can install it on Windows, Mac, Linux. Depending on your hardware, your performance will vary. But then once you've got it running, you then run Ollama serve. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do that real quick. Run Ollama serve, and so it's running in the background, which is great. And installation is done with the Ollama package, which I've already installed. So we're going to go ahead and take this import statement here. We're going to make sure that's at the top here because we want to import Ollama. And then I'm going to take this right here, this response message, and I'm going to just put that in here because we can just steal this code, and stolen code is the best code in my opinion, and just say, instead of the content being, what was the question, why is the sky blue? We're just going to see my message. As a matter of fact, one of the things we will ask is, why is the sky blue? Okay? So then we're going to also make sure that this response appears in the chat window. So when the response comes in, we're going to make sure that self.chatWindow gets updated with an append, and we're going to say chatbot, just our chatbot here, plus, and then we're going to take this response right here. So you can see in the example they have a print. You don't want to send the response because that will be, I think, a URL code. So we want to say the response, or the URL, full URL. So we want to say response message content. And that should be all we need here. So let's go ahead and say, why is the sky blue? So definitely some interactivity happening. So I'll bring in the console here. You can definitely see it happening here. Where it's taking a minute to load the LLM for the first time. So you can see here Llama Runner started in 9.3 seconds. So it loaded it into my memory. And then now what it should happen is in a couple minutes it should have a response. You can already see one of the areas where things need to be enhanced is like with asynchronous calls like that. So perfect. Why is the sky blue? What a great question. Sunlight molecules scattering longer wavelengths. Oh, well, thank you for that answer. Have to send. Another thing we'll have to add is just enter capabilities. So that's awesome. That's actually really great. Let me go ahead and just okay. So I just accidentally deleted that, and I don't want that kind of interactivity here. And I definitely don't want to be able to paste anything in here. So let's go ahead and fix that. Let's make it so that the text box we have here cannot be edited. So is not hidden. What is it again? Let me refer to my notes one more time. Set read only. That's what it is. So we'll set read only to true. And by setting that to true now, what we've done is we should have it so that if I type I did it on text box. Wrong. You don't want to do it on text box. You want to do it on chat window. Self.chatWindow.set read only true. Because if we made the text box, that might actually not be bad for multiple user chat to disable their text box on them when they get a little rowdy. So we say hello there. Just get a response back. So now I don't have the ability to delete anything, but I do have the ability to copy, which is great. It's exactly what I wanted. So now that I've got this going, I want to just enhance this one more time because I don't like that I can't press the text box here. So I'm going to go ahead and search for Qline edit real quick. I'm going to go to Google. Although I could have only gone to this website, I'm going to go to Google. And I'm going to look at the signals that are available for it. So I've got cursor position change input, return press. Okay, so perfect. So let me go ahead and do this. Let me do self.textbox.returnPress.connect. And then we'll add that to self-handler send button. And if we want to, we can rename that. But it is a send, so it is sending. So let's go ahead and do start debugging. And we just say hello again, press enter. Oh, spinning. That's good. Hey, nice to see you again. How can I help or chat with you today? Perfect. So that's it. We kind of made a basic chat app, and as you can see with the grid layout, what's nice about it is that when we expand it, it is much bigger than it was before, and then as we resize it, it's nice that we can be able to resize it, and our buttons and our layout, I should say, stays mainly the same. So this is our basic application. And that's really it. So I hope in further tutorials we might enhance this to do more things, but that remains to be seen and depends on what anybody tells me they would like to see in this application or what you may add on your own. So good luck with that, and thanks for watching.